Yeah, that's an interesting question. And thinking back on it, it's clear that a number of us had similar ideas about how there was a need for a greater degree of research into policy ideas that were floating around. Things that seemed sort of good ideas, that when you looked at them in terms of technicality for implementation, you came across all kinds of problems and obstacles. And in order to sort of get a handle on how you would deal with that, there needed to be more research, needed to be more understanding about how the system worked. We also felt that a lot of the problems arose from systemic issues. They weren't simply sort of faulty decisions on one issue or the other. There was also the question of how there was a need for basic change in how we approach the economy, how we approach the implementation of policy, how we deliver public services, and so on. The name TASC, TASC of course is an Irish word, TASC. It's the Irish form for task, TASK, but the acronym itself is Think Tank for Action on Social Change. It arose from a whole range of debates and discussions about what it is we wanted to do. It wasn't simply a question of having research. We also wanted change, and we wanted action on change. So if you like, what we felt was needed gave rise to the name itself. But you know, it could have been called any number of things. I think we did have it a sort of a working name at some point, but I can't even remember it at this stage. The way we work is essentially to do research and analysis of given problems. In some cases, that is based on somebody who comes to us, or an organization who comes to us, who wants a particular issue to be researched and analysed, and to identify what steps they might take to address the particular problems that they're trying to overcome. Part of that, for instance, has resulted in us developing a training module on financial capability, which has been very successful in terms of organizations wanting to use that service which we deliver. And that would be part and parcel of our approach, that we want to turn analysis into action. So it's not just a question of sort of theoretically developing what might be a good thing to do, but actually putting that into practice and testing. We employ researchers. They are independent. I don't, for instance, interfere in any way with the research that the organisation does. It is done by experts, and we then, as I say, circulate the outcome and the results of that research to those who may have an interest in it, both in the broad general public by way of putting it on our website, and also circulating it to decision makers and policy makers. 5 years' time, it's difficult to say. When the organization was founded 20 years ago, we had no idea how long it would last. Would it last a year, 2 years, 3 years? Because lots of others had tried to establish think tanks and research organizations, and they collapsed primarily because they couldn't locate the funding for them. So I think one of the big struggles for any organization like ours, which is independent, which is non-partisan, which in order to be credible needs to maintain its independence, and therefore the funding it gets needs to have no ties attached. It needs to be enable the organization to do the work that its constitution requires it to do. And so, predicting where we will be in 5 years' time depends so much on the degree to which we are successful in raising sufficient funds and sustainable funds, because in order to sustain the organization, we not only need an annual income, but we need some kind of predictability as well, because clearly if you have staff employed, they need security that they will have a job in X number of years. So a lot depends on where we will be. First of all, will depend on that we have succeeded in raising sufficient funds to continue our operations, and we have managed to do that successfully for the last 20 years. So I have no reason to believe we won't do it for the next 5 years or more. But that requires a commitment from a whole lot of individuals who already are committed to the organization. The issue of climate change, of global warming, has risen to the top of the political agenda. 20 years ago, when TASC was founded, it was an issue, but it wasn't the big issue. It was in many sense a peripheral issue, something that people are concerned about, and political parties everywhere, but in Europe, had it on their agenda, but it wasn't a priority. Very clearly now it has to be a priority. But it's not only the issue of what do we do about reducing the trends towards global warming, but we also have to look at ensuring that the things we do, the steps we take, do not impact on those who are least able to bear the burden. So there has to be a serious attention given to the issue of climate justice. In response to the need to take serious political action in relation to climate change, TASC has developed a project called the People's Transition, which is addressing the issue of climate justice. It is a pilot project based in Dublin and in Donegal, and is engaging with people on the ground, debating and discussing and identifying what steps can people take to address things in their own community that will ensure that we have a planet fit for our grandchildren. There's no doubt I'm proud of the fact that TASC exists, proud that I had a hand in helping to get it off the ground. But of course, it has survived largely on the back of the work of lots and lots of other people over the years, who came and went at various times, either working for the organization in a paid capacity or as volunteers. And the fact that TASC has survived is as much a credit to all of them as it is to any of the founders. But it is doing important work, as I was saying earlier. It is more and more being referenced as a credible, reliable organization for having the facts on any given issue. Its independence is extremely important for its credibility, and for that reason, of course, we are very protective of that independence.